News Talk weather.
Thanks to the AA. Download the new AA app to request a roadside rescue and track the patrol right to your car.
A mix of bright and sunny spells with isolated showers here and there. Tonight will remain mostly dry with the odd spell of rain. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're welcome along to Monday evening's Off the Ball. The 2019-20 season is done at last, July 26th, and it's over. Pat Nevin, Kevin Kilban on the way. Paul Merson was an OTBAM as well this morning, giving in some thoughts on his former club Aston Villa pulling off this season's great escape. We will have Ronan O'Gara on Monday Night Rugby. Ireland have been drawn in Group 1 of this new November competition. They're in Group 1 with England, Fiji, Wales. All of this instead of the usual November internationals with the Southern Hemisphere teams on tour. So we'll talk to Rog about that. And then over in the States, the baseball season is up and running, but maybe not for long. They've had a spate of positive tests right out the gate. John Gonzalez from The Ringer will check in. Text number as ever, 53106. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Very strange to say this. I have company in studio. Will O'Callaghan. Here we are.
Evening, Joe. Good to be back in your company here. And I see Nathan Murphy is coming up from his residence. I'm not sure whether he's in Mayo at the moment, but yeah, here we go. He's joining us virtually, but it's good to be back in here again.
Nice to have you. Nathan Murphy, hello. Where in the world are you?
I'm in Dublin. I'm in Dublin, Joe. I don't actually have a residence in Mayo anymore. I'm no longer a man of Mayo. My parents departed about 18 months ago and moved to Galway, moved to the big city. So when I go to Ballyhonus now, I sort of drive around going, will anyone take me in, please? Somebody?
Wearing your local celebrity T-shirt saying, anyone.
Come on. I'll put it up on Twitter.
Yes. Did I see you were down in Galway over the weekend?
I was.
Oh,
I was down in Clifton. Well, it was a weekend of two halves, to put it mildly. So we drove down, dropped the kids with the parents in Galway, went through Connemara, went the Mam Cross, Leenan route on Saturday, and you literally could not see out of the car. The rain was so heavy. It was absolutely torrential.
Miserable.
But then yesterday on the way back, we came down by Roundstone and Rossaville, and oh my God, the sun was splitting stones, 20 degrees. It was absolutely glorious. You're thinking, yes, why would I want to go to Spain? Why would I want to go to any of these places? It could be like this all the time. So yeah,
it's a grand
nice
country. Grand. It sounds nice, yeah. Grand country when it's sunny, don't you know? That's what they say. So John
was sitting
Gonzalez.
beside Ryan Tubridy at dinner.
Oh, were you?
I was. Which again is, it's like when you're on a plane with somebody very famous. You're thinking, if this place was to just blow up now, nobody cared that I was dead. You all about Tubbs.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Ryan Tubridy and
50 other people.
Yeah. And did you go over to
No.
you know, broadcasting giants, exchanging a look, an understanding of what this game's all about?
No, he was actually sitting directly behind me at dinner, and I could see from once my wife was looking quite excited during the dinner, and she was like, behind you. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna turn around. So she's like, just listen.
So you weren't tempted to get an autograph from him then for her?
Obviously, then I recognised the voice. But
yes.
yeah, so it was like I wasn't there then for the next hour and a half.
It's a thrill for your wife to be having dinner next to a broadcasting giant, you know?
I know, yes. She made that point a few times.
So John Gonzalez from The Ringer is going to join us. There's two things going on over in the States. The MLB is back, sort of, baseball. It took them a long time to get up and running. They are. And then straight away, the Marlins have had at least 14 players test positive. They were meant to play this evening. That game has been suspended. So that's all a bit messy. And then over in Disneyland, the NBA lads are getting things together. Although, spare a thought for Lou Williams. It's tough in the Disneyland confines. There is an element of cabin fever creeping in. Lou Williams currently being investigated by the league for allegedly visiting a strip club after he left Disney World to attend a funeral, which was not his best move. He's the Clippers player. He was given permission to leave, especially for the funeral. And then later that evening, he was pictured in a strip club having a drink and wearing an NBA mask just to make sure he stood out even that bit more.
Have you seen the tweet, Joe, on this? In terms of he's actually given his reasoning as to why he was in the strip club.
No, I haven't seen anything about that.
Apparently, the strip club, he wasn't going there as a vocation. He was going there not even for recreation. He was going there apparently because it's the best restaurant in Atlanta, and it's his favourite restaurant.
Okay.
So he's not denying it, because obviously he's been photographed inside the strip club. But he says he wasn't going there to look at the ladies; he was just going there to eat.
He likes the articles. That's what he's there for. So we'll talk to John Gonzalez later on. Meanwhile, Aston Villa complete the Great Escape. That is the 2019-20 season done and dusted, Nathan. July 26th, and we're home and hosed. Aston Villa have pulled off the miracle.
Yeah, they were the best of a pretty bad bunch. We wrote them off quite a few times over the last few weeks. The game against Liverpool where they offered nothing. Game against Manchester United where they were a little bit lucky, but you didn't see anything the way they sort of trudged off the pitch that night when they were unlucky with Bruno Fernandes' penalty that showed that any sort of spark in them. And you just looked at the group of players and thought, are they actually good enough? Do they deserve, when you look at that squad, to stay in the Premier League? But we see this all the time at the end of the season. Results come from nowhere. One team has something to play for, another one doesn't, and you get teams at the right time. And Villa got teams, I think, over the last week at just the right time and got away with it. But you can't see them getting away with it again next season unless they've a massive improvement, which is hard to see considering they spent 140 million quid last year.
Yeah.
Now, and the 6 weeks before the start of the new season, yeah, it feels like it's a bit of a state of execution for them.
It does a bit, and they'll be minus Jack Grealish, you would have to presume as well. He was drinking shots all night with Dean Smith, who slept in his office. Dean Smith, that is. Jack Grealish didn't sleep in Dean Smith's office. I presume he went home. But they had a big drunken night together, and Dean Smith joked that he had got Grealish to sign the 5-year contract. I mean, was it a joke? Who knows? But yeah, 12th of July, so that's 2 weeks ago, pretty much to the day, they were 7 points from safety. That's an unbelievable turnaround. What of Eddie Howe? Does Eddie Howe look at Bournemouth now and think, my reputation is still intact, I'm still the bright young thing of English management, there is only so much I can do with this club. There's a danger if he stays with them another year or 2 or 3 and they're not well backed and they don't get back into the Premier League, that pedestal he's on disappears somewhat. Will he take the jump? Is now the time for Eddie Howe to take the jump?
Well, 12 months ago, I think, was the time for Eddie Howe to take the jump, when it could have been at a considerably higher place to go to. Where does he go right now? So I know there was speculation yesterday that maybe Sean Dyche may go to Crystal Palace to replace Roy Hodgson. Is Burnley the summit of his ambitions right now, that sort of club? Because it's hard to see him going much higher. Or do you wait 6 months with Bournemouth and hope that you keep that squad together? Because again, the transfer market's going to be such a mess and they seem to be paying incredibly high wages to a lot of players. Yeah. So maybe they can keep them and maybe they're a good championship side. And you're in around the top 2-3 in the championship, and Carlo Ancelotti does what inevitably is going to happen and leaves Everton, and you get that gig, because that's probably where he's at. He's been relegated, so when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer goes, whenever that may be, he's not in the running for Manchester United. He's not in the running for Tottenham, I'd imagine, when Jose Mourinho goes. So his reputation is somewhat intact, but it's not where it was even 9 months ago. Yeah,
it's funny you say Everton. That is exactly the level. If you were Eddie Howe's agent, you would say, if we play this right, that is a very good level for you to pitch in at.
Palace is another option. I know that Sean Dyche is probably more in the mould of a Roy Hodgson and how organised he is, but there is a tad more glamour to going to a Palace because it's a club in London. It always feels like it's been a little bit of a sleeping giant, and they're going to have a big wage bill. Maybe it can convince Wilfried Zaha to stay. But yeah, it is that sort of Everton Palace, a team that are underachieving, around 10th, 12th in the table, and maybe you can get them to the Europa League next season.
When is the next time you'll be at a Premier League game?
I don't know. I just can't see the way things are going, how we'll be there before. Sorry, I've been there for the last 6 weeks, Joe. What are you talking about? Twice a week. I haven't seen my family in ages. Can you see us going to matches before 2021? It's a real shame.
Personally, no, I can't.
It'll be interesting to see because part of the issue with a lot of the games over the last 6 weeks is they haven't meant anything. Whereas come the start of September, every game will mean something. So every single Liverpool match is going to be important. Every Manchester City match, Manchester United match. Suddenly there's a lot on the line, whereas too many of the games over the last while, you felt like you could write them off, particularly with Liverpool and Manchester City. Since the title was won, it was absolutely irrelevant. So, albeit it'll be behind closed doors, I think there'll be a bit more intensity to when it restarts to what we've seen over the last few weeks.
Glad to hear Nathan's family are moving up in the world. Mayo makes Galway look like Manhattan. Barry in the Surfer's Paradise in Enniscrone says, Jesus, Tubridy wasn't eating in hillbillies anyway, which leads me to believe Murphy is on good money, says Finton. What 5-star joint was this?
No, it wasn't the 5-star. I presume Tubridy likes to keep it real.
Man of the people.
When he goes on the radio of a Monday, he's been about. I was thinking, geez, like that level of fame must be tough.
It's a nuisance in Ireland, I would think, yeah.
Well, but especially for somebody who's a TV broadcaster, say it's, I don't know, who else, like a Brian O'Driscoll. Everybody feels they know something about sport. So you can chat to him about sport. You know, if you see him and you know him, he's not going to thank me for this. You know, go up to him and chat to him about the great days at Leinster and Ireland. At least there's some sort of, like, what do you talk to Tubbery about? Everyone just sits there and stares at him.
Any tickets for the toy show? I'd say that's number one. I'd say by distance.
Damn it, that was the line.
That's what. Yeah, that was the one. I am surprised you didn't swoop in, broadcaster to broadcaster, and say, Ryan, hook me up here.
And he's like, wait, what show? No.
Sports.
I said, Ryan, I don't know if you noticed, there's a show going there from 4 to 7. I hear it's got your name all over it. Maybe that's why we were down there.
Yeah, maybe.
Recruitment.
Listen. So let's kick things off. Will, we are starting the news round. As ever, with thanks to Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. And you're starting with this new tournament in November, December in the rugby. I think to a degree, because there have been so many different proposals about the shape that rugby is going to take over the next while, people had maybe just blanked some of these out and they'd merged into one big mess. But now suddenly we have what looks like be a brilliant 4 weeks in November, December.
Yeah, I mean, we've got confirmation that the Rugby Championship itself is going to be played in New Zealand in a one-country format. We don't have full details of the fixtures, but it appears a lot of these games will be played in England in the new 8-team international rugby tournament in the Northern Hemisphere in November and December. No title sponsor as yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes. Japan and Fiji are the two confirmed invited teams to come in alongside the Six Nations sides in the competition. It's due to start, Joe, on the 14th of November. It'll finish on the weekend of December the 5th. The 8 teams will be now split into 2 pools. Andy Farrell's Ireland has been confirmed will play Fiji, England and Wales, with the pool winners to meet in a final at Twickenham. And Sky Sports announced about an hour ago that they'll be showing the game between England and Ireland at Twickenham, and that England will also play Fiji. So I get the feeling that in all likelihood, if Fiji are already in England, there's probably a good chance Ireland play Fiji there too.
Right, okay. And so they play the 3 teams in their group, and then at the end of the group stages, of the 2 groups, first will play first in, I presume, some kind of playoff to see who's the overall winner. Second will play second, third play third, and fourth play fourth. So there we have it. Suddenly Andy Farrell, Nathan, went from a point where he had very, very few games. He now has 2 Six Nations games, including over in Paris. And then he will have England away, certainly, which is no easy task, and potentially Wales away as well. And come December 5th, we'll have seen plenty of Ireland.
Yeah, we sure will. And we'll be reading a lot into what we've seen as well. And maybe this is an improvement on the November internationals, that there's some sort of a competitive edge to it. But when do you experiment? When do you try things out? Like, there was always that one game, if not 2 games, in the November series where a coach could learn a few things and reward players who've been around the squad with a cap. Like, depending on how these matches are fixed up, is this an actual mini tournament that we judge a huge amount of what Andy Farrell's doing with Ireland? If it goes disastrously wrong, are we writing him off? But here, I think it's just great to have it. I think it sounds like it's going to be a brilliant 5-6 week spell. And maybe at this early stage, having not had his players for so long, he just wants them all in together for that extended period. But again, like, if you have England in that second match and you've lost first time out to Wales, and it's been a disappointing Six Nations, and all those guys have been playing Champions Cup and Pro 14, you really feel a lot of those players are going to have to play a lot of rugby over the next sort of 15 months or so.
Yeah. Well,
you have the Champions Cup coming directly after this competition. Probably world ranking points on the line, particularly when you're playing England and Wales, who are close to Ireland in the world rankings. I'd imagine that experimentation goes out the window, and Andy Farrell has to pick pretty much a first choice team. He
will have Italy at home in the Six Nations, and he will have Fiji. They're 11 in the world. It's not like you can take them for granted by any means, but they might be 2 opportunities to do a bit of experimentation. The Martin O'Neill lesson from the Nations League is treat these competitions with a degree of seriousness. You don't want to stink the joint out either, and especially when you're trying to prove yourself.
We're all brilliant 3 months out saying, oh, listen, obviously we're not going to read a huge amount into a match against Fiji, and then Ireland scrape over the line by 4 points and we're all in absolute crisis. So he needs to be wary of that people aren't reasonable. They expect performances all the time. It's brilliant to see Japan in there, though. And it'll be interesting to see how this does develop, because one of the disappointments has been from the start of the pandemic, when there was a sense of this new global rugby calendar that bit by bit it feels like it's been broken down. but maybe finally a chance for Japan to play competitive matches year on year against the very best teams in the world. And look how well they've done without having that.
No, absolutely. And there's a very decent chance France top Group 2, England top Group 1, and maybe Ireland and Japan finish second in their respective groups and then play each other, and that'd be quite interesting as well.
And Japan have the Lions to come at Murrayfield in March, I think, if that does go ahead in 2021. So they're going to get a fair amount of meaningful rugby to play in the Northern Hemisphere, because even going into the last World Cup, their problem was trying to get games ahead of playing where they were the host of the tournament in 2019. So this will be a boost for them. Yeah,
we've got Ron O'Gara on the way after 8 o'clock. Greg wants to know, word on the street is Murphy attempted to get a free dinner by offering a signed photo for the restaurant wall.
Of Joe Molloy.
Care to deny? Do you want to deny that accusation?
Absolutely. Trust me.
Word is neither you nor Tuberty paid. Well, you both you both wrote checks Jack Charlton style, and his was framed. Yours has been cashed.
His was framed. Mine was cashed straight away. I 100% paid. I can guarantee you that.
Will, where are we going next?
Well, Conor Howrahan has urged Aston Villa to build on their Premier League survival next season. Their 1-1 draw at West Ham yesterday secured their top-flight status on the final day of the campaign. The Republic of Ireland midfielder has been speaking on Villa TV, and he says improvement will be required next term.
Heart attack stuff, to be honest with you, So, just unbelievably, delighted and such a relief. Delighted for the club. It's a massive, massive football club. Everyone knows we shouldn't probably be in this position, It's a pleasure to play for the club. So many players would love to play for it, but hopefully, we can build on this kind of result this season and move forward.
And you kind of, over the past 3 or 4 weeks, we kind of fell 6 points behind, but then you've shown all the qualities that you have got as a team to be resilient and not panic. And
listen, we've showed huge character. We've rallied together as a group. We needed to, because we were probably down and out. Experts, pundits, all written us off. So it's a great thing in life, kind of, when you prove people wrong. So we're delighted in there. The lads are delighted, and enjoyed a few weeks off now.
How important was it just to stay up and build the foundations for next season?
Yeah, listen, it was key. We were desperate not to head back to the Championship. It would have been gutting. It's never easy to get out of that league. So to stay in the Premier League, we're absolutely thrilled, of course. And like you said, hopefully we can build on that now. And such a big football club, we shouldn't be where we are. But listen, the reality is we are where we are. And over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, whatever it may be, till the season starts up again, we'll have to improve as a club, because this won't be good enough next year for everyone involved in the club, the fans and whatever. So we need to improve, definitely.
Jack Grealish with Aston Villa's goal at the London Stadium yesterday afternoon. Ray Houghton, former Aston Villa and Ireland midfielder, was on OTBAM this morning, and he's hopeful that his old club can keep hold of Grealish.
Well, I mean, the point with this is what's your ambition as a player? And it depends who is going to pay the money for him, because I would imagine at the moment, with his age and the way that he's really responded to the Premier League, I mean, that was the question mark, wasn't it? How would he do in the Premier League? And he's done exceptionally well. He's been Villa's best player. He's been the player that they've gone to when they've been struggling. He's come up with so many important goals, and it would just be dependent upon who comes in for him. But if he wants to go and make a better career for himself, then he might have to move on from Aston Villa. Although Villa have got money. I have heard this, but Aston Villa have got a good owner who's very willing to put money into the club. So it might be dependent on the recruitment policy as well. And if they can bring in the right personnel, it might just tempt him to stay for another year just to see where the club is going. Because if you can get success with your homegrown club and the club that you've supported as a youngster, there's no better joy than that. So they will be dependent on what Dean does as far as bringing in the right personnel.
Ray Houghton there speaking on OTBAM. Joe, the lads will be back at 7:30 between 7:30 and 10 tomorrow morning.
Nathan, Jack Grealish turns 25 this year. I don't really see the benefit to him of staying around for one more year. It's now or never. And if anything, partying on the back of really playing the key role in keeping them up makes it that bit easier to sign off. You're not abandoning the club as they head down to the Championship.
Yeah, 10 years ago, this is straightforward, though, because Villa would be a club who would need the money, the 50, 60 million. But as Ray Houghton's saying, if you've got rich owners and you've got the wealth of the Premier League behind you, do you need to sell? He's the local boy. He's the club captain. Dean Smith doesn't seem like the type, and even the sort of jokey manner in which he talked about it yesterday feels like they're not going to put a gun to his head about this. But they could make life uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
And sometimes players get unlucky, that Manchester United look elsewhere. Manchester City end up signing somebody from Spain, and next thing, where are you going? Like you're going to Tottenham, or you're going to one of the clubs fighting for a Champions League place, and you might think, well, actually, maybe I am waiting and seeing what happens for another year. But that's really the only reason, because I don't think there's any question he's good enough for a top 6 team. He was touched on it a lot. He's playing in what was a very average side, particularly in an attacking sense. Didn't have a striker to create things for at all, and was almost always the standout man on the pitch. And I know people have probably seen a lot of him because every game has been on over the last while, and at times they felt a little bit disappointed. But like, you've got to consider the quality and the standard of the players he's playing alongside. Like, Wesley did nothing before he got his injury. Samat has come in and did very, very little. And then at the biggest moment of the season, he scores this cracking goal. So, yeah, I think like now's the time to go. As you say, he's 25. In your head, you think he's 21.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's now or never. Not now or never, but, I always think Seamus Coleman should have gone, really. I know he's a club legend, but that ship sailed, and you suspect Manchester United was there for him.
Yeah, like, the ship sailed, but also potentially that summer when he had his leg broken, the March previously, may well have been the summer. He never struck you as the type who would throw his toys out of the pram.
No, 100%. He was almost too good a pro to do that, and too much respect for the club. But yeah, I'm sure. I suspect he's happy, and really values the relationship he has at Everton. But he would jump to mind as an Irish player who could have played at a much higher level.
But I know he still talks a lot about moving back to Killybegs, but like, you wouldn't at all be surprised in 3 or 4 years if Seamus Coleman ended up as some sort of caretaker manager at some stage at Everton. The way he talks, everything about him. If he wants to move home to Donegal, let him off. But you feel there's definitely, his character shows he could well end up being a manager at some stage as well.
Yeah. Will, where are we going next?
Champions League places were decided yesterday as well, lads. Manchester United in 3rd position after their 2-0 victory away to Wolves, which was live here on Off the Ball. Chelsea also finishing in the top 4. Their 2-0 win against Wolves on the final day. For the United boss, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he says he's been particularly impressed by his players since the restart of the Premier League.
The boys have done a great achievement. I think, where we were earlier on in the season to end up 3rd is fantastic by them. They've taken on board so many things, had our ups and downs, and it's of course come down to the last game, and I've got to say it's a wonderful achievement by everyone.
What are your thoughts on the game itself that achieved it?
Not a classic. It's one of them.
Does it matter? No,
not really. But then again, we want to learn to win games like this, games that we need a result in. It's been like a mini tournament, this restart, and it looks it as well. We're a bit tired, leggy. I think everyone can see that we're not the same as we've been early on. But then again, we've had to go for it. We've had to catch so many points and so many goals. So and they've done it.
We'll talk to Pat and Evan just after 7:30. They were 13 points off 3rd spot on January 30th when Bruno Fernandes signed, so it's been a serious turnaround. Meanwhile, Will, Glenn Whelan still going?
Yeah, he's going to be at Fleetwood until the summer of 2021. He's agreed his new contract with the club today. Joey Barton saying that he's been a brilliant signing for them and has had a huge impact on the club since he joined from Hearts back in late January. He says he's been superb, and Whelan will stay at the club where he helped them to get into the playoff semi-finals, where they lost out eventually to Wickham. A player who's leaving Liverpool, perhaps some Liverpool fans would be surprised to hear that he's been called a Liverpool legend, is Dejan Lovren. But that's what his manager Jurgen Klopp has said. He has joined Zenit St. Petersburg today for €12 million. Klopp says he was a great player and was particularly important to the team when he was fit, and says he will leave as a legend of the club. And so that's Dejan Lovren leaving. Also 2 Spurs players leaving today. Michael Vorm, their goalkeeper, who came back for a second spell when Hugo Lloris got injured back in October, and also Jan Vertonghen leaves the club after over 6 years in North London and 300 appearances for the club. He says he has a number of serious offers, particularly from clubs in Italy and Spain, and he has entered free agency today, Joe.
Jose Mourinho very excited at full time to make Europa League football yesterday, Nathan. Did you not see that?
Was there anybody not excited? Dear God, everyone seemed quite happy with their lot.
It was a result for everyone.
Jose Mourinho to Jamie Vardy, who they got what they went for at the start of the season with European football. Yeah, Mourinho was the one you looked at and thought, this guy's bluffing.
Well, I did see somebody say he absolutely 100% wants the closing scene of the Amazon Prime documentary, and he's giving it to them. This has been a success, you know what I mean? It's redemption.
Because everyone's looking obviously at the Aston Villa celebrations, and Roy Keane made his comment, and maybe it was joking, maybe it wasn't, but they stayed up. But Mourinho grabs his backroom staff and they're almost looking at him going, are we doing this? Are we doing this? And he's point blank refuses to let them go from the little huddle. It's like, no, we're all going to jump up and down. We're all going to jump up and down for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday nights in Eastern Europe, everyone. Come on in.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I know. So we'll see how they go next year. I mean, it was mad. It was just somebody was making the point that Spurs at the start of the season were tipped for Champions League football by everyone. Like, it's been a complete capitulation. They don't have much time to turn things around under Jose.
It is 11 months ago. I think we did our in-house off-the-ball predictions, and there was 25 of us, and every single person picked Spurs to finish in the Champions League. Now, granted, at that stage, it's 2.5 months on from them playing in the Champions League final with Maurizio Pochettino, and you're thinking, how can it all go wrong? So, it's been a disaster.
It has been a disaster, yeah. Championship playoff semi-final this evening, Will.
Yeah, a really big game. Fulham, who just missed out in the automatic spots. They were 2 points away at the end of the regular season. They don't have the top scorer from the championship this year, Alexander Mitrovic. He's been ruled out through injury. No place in the squad for Harry Arthur, but Cyrus Christie comes into the team to start in midfield. Fulham making the trip to Cardiff. That one kicks off at 7:45. Hearts and Partick Thistle, meanwhile, have failed to overturn their relegations in court following an arbitration case. A panel has decided that the promotions of Dundee United, Wraith Rovers and Cove Rangers will stand. The two clubs, that was Hearts and Partick, took legal action against the SPFL after they were consigned to the drop as a result of a vote to curtail the season in Scotland amid the COVID-19 pandemic. This looks like it was the last case scenario for them because the season starts in Scotland this weekend.
I'll be honest with you, Will. Ever since Nathan Murphy did a report on some infighting in Scottish football about a month ago, I've lost all interest. I mean, it's just like, it's like, you know, when you eat, there's a certain drink you have and you get bad hangover, you're not well. It's like that. I can't look at it ever again, Nathan. Ever since you ruined it.
Yeah, it's like tequila since the night of my 18th birthday, Joe.
Precisely.
It held so much promise for so long. But I apologise for that. I think that was the low point for a lot of people of the pandemic.
That's when I thought, God, this is really serious, this situation.
Please, God, let football return.
Kylian Mbappe is out of Champions League football.
He is. He's not going to be around for the quarter-final for PSG against Atalanta, which is on the 12th of August in Lisbon. These quarter-finals now one-legged affairs. Kylian Mbappe suffered a very heavy tackle against Saint Etienne in the French Cup final on Friday night. PSG sent him for a further examination on the sprain on his ankle today, and they've confirmed he's out for at least 3 weeks. And even if PSG were to get to the semi-finals of the competition, it's unlikely that the French World Cup winner would be available to play in that. The big race at Galway today was the Connacht Hotel Handicap, won by Princess Zoe. Bit of a surprise. Sharjah was expected to win this one, but Tony Mullins' mare produced a very strong finish to take the victory at Ballybrit, and that was despite her carrying 17 pounds in the race, Joe.
Very good. Nathan, thank you. Will.
Cheers, Joe.
Good to have you in person here in the studio. Nathan, give our regards to Ryan, of course.
I will. He'll still be looking going, who? Nah, don't remember him.
We'll talk to Pat Nevin next.
The News Round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.